Hello friends, Tanya here, and today I am doing a Spellbinders September 2022 card kit of the month TED cards 1 kit. We're going to start off right away with the Hemstitch circles and the stitched petal diamond background dies to help create this quilting themed card. I'm also using the Precision Layering A2 sets. This is A, and I also use B, and I use both of them throughout all of these cards. Now I have a a card base from the kit, and I have a layer of white cardstock that's cut just slightly smaller than that, and I am going to add this to the card base with the pattern paper. That extra piece of cardstock is to add just a little bit of extra height underneath the pattern paper. We have this circle that was first cut with the stitched background and then with the circle die. I did place this on the card towards the left side and trimmed off the extra. I have several ephemera pieces from the kit that I've selected to put on this card, and I've added some scraps of cardstock behind those for extra strength and for some height. And I didn't want this to be a really tall card, so it's just a little bit of cardstock. I'm also using some of the chipboard stickers from this kit. They are so pretty. I really like the chipboard stickers in this one, and I'll use them a lot throughout this series. We chose the Cute as a Button chipboard sticker, and then this heart button. And sometimes the humidity is very high here, and that does make things peel a bit. And I just used a little liquid glue to help adhere that to my card base. Next, we're going to take one of these stamps from the stamp set that came in the kit, and we're going to stamp that in VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. And I do stamp it 3 times to get a really good buildup of ink to hold as much embossing powder as possible. I am using this bin of clear embossing powders. It's a mix of several different brands of ultrafine clear embossing powder. And sometimes I don't get the best results from it, but I really like to use it when it isn't all that important how thick the embossing is, as long as it seals my image. Next, we're going to use a die from the Slimline Precision Layering dies that works great to do some of our sentiment banners, and we'll adhere that to the card front with a little bit of dimension behind it. Inside the card, we're going to take another stamp from the stamp set, and this one says, "Because of you, I laugh a little harder, cry a little less, and craft a lot more." The front of the card says, "You make this world a more beautiful place." To add some extra detail to this card, we're going to use some of the Prism AB Color Essential Gems. Just going to scatter those across the card front. I really like that there are several different sizes in these mixes. I end up doing 3 clusters of these gems over the front of the card to finish it off. What do you think? Do those gems add the perfect color to this card? Again, this is card number 2. We're going to again use the Precision Layering dies, both the A and the B die sets. And I have this amazing oval set. It's called Fluted Classics Ovals. I've used this a ton. It is really a staple in my stash. And we've created this grouping with the oval behind these flowers and that cute little pin cushion snail. I also chose this light pink to off-white pattern paper from the pack. And I did take another piece of white cardstock that is slightly bigger than the pattern paper to layer behind it. I like that very subtle white matting behind the pattern paper this time. You'll see me do that several times on this series of cards. We're going to add a little height behind our oval with some scrap cardstock again. I just have an envelope on my desk full of all of these trimmings from various things. And I use that to add extra height behind my pieces for my projects. We're going to center this more towards the top of the card. And I've already put some extra cardstock scraps behind the pieces of ephemera here. We've got 3 flowers and our pincushion snail. And I have them held together with press and seal. That is really my secret weapon. The press and seal helps keep all the little groupings of ephemera together that I want to use on a card. And I typically create all my groupings and then start making my cards. Here we're taking another sentiment from the stamp set. This one says, "So lovely, sweet, and wonderful," and "so" is S-E-W, because the theme of this kit is sewing and crafting, which is perfect for all of your little crafty friends. Well, all of your crafty friends, maybe they're not little, but sometimes you get to craft with your littles, which I often do. We're going to also do some gold heat embossing on these. I did stamp it twice, thinking I might need more than one of this sentiment and trying to save myself a little time. I didn't actually use the second sentiment on this 10 cards video, but I have it in my stash. I love how heat embossing goes from dull to this beautiful shiny raised image. We're also using one of the long skinny sentiment dies from one of the many Glimmer sentiment sets. You can search your stash for different things, and I bet there was one in the slimline precision layering sets that would have worked also. Another piece of cardstock behind there to add a little extra height, and we'll layer that right beneath our cute little snail. Next, we're going to use some luxurious lilac baubles from Trinity Stamps. I really liked the color in these gems because they match perfectly, or these halfback pearls. They match perfectly with the color of the pink on our little snail's back. I'm just going to do a bunch of these. I think I do several more than 3 groupings. I just did a fun scattering all around our snail, starting in the left lower corner and working my way up to the right upper corner, and I add one towards the bottom on the right side also. I think that creates a nice balance and flow, and I've stopped being super concerned about how these gems land. I just have a general idea, although there are times when I do not like the placement at all and I won't glue until they are where I am happy with them. Next, there are 4 sheets of stickers in this set, or in this kit, and they are matte finished. They're like paper, which I really like because the shiny stickers, the flat shiny stickers, I don't always like those on our cardstock. It seems too pre-printed, if that's a thing. So I really like these matte stickers, and they stick very well. I'm using some Delicata Golden Glitz ink to stamp my sentiment, just because I like how that gold shimmeriness stamps inside. For card number 3, we're going to start out using this, I showed you the name, now I can't remember. It's Scalloped Symphony, I think is what it's called. I will have it linked in the description box below. I love that beautiful medallion or filigree circle that it creates, and we've got a detail die and we have a solid die, and they work together to create a beautiful backdrop for our images. I've cut one with shimmery white cardstock and the other one with plain. The shimmery is the detail portion, and we're stamping the sentiment from the stamp set in the Golden Glitz ink again, and this time I had it figured out of what I wanted before I started assembling the card. So I actually opened the card base, folded it backwards, and stuck it in my mini MISTI, and I was able to stamp that before I assembled the card. Here I'm gluing together the 2 layers of our circle element. And I did put a piece of scrap cardstock on top of that Golden Glitz ink since I stamped it several times and I didn't want any of the ink to transfer onto the other side of the card before it dried. We've got a layer of plain white cardstock that is slightly larger than the pattern paper that I am going to use. Again, use the precision layering dies to cut those out, and I'm layering those together on the card front. Just making sure they line up well. And as you can see, I'm using that acrylic block to add a little weight to those circle elements to make sure they stay stuck together and dry. Next, we have our grouping of ephemera. I have this cute little quail or partridge, this cute little bird, some flowers, a branch of leaves, and an embroidery hoop with the words, "Oh, happy day." I'm going to start by adding our medallion slightly off center and up towards the top of the card with a little bit of extra cardstock behind it for extra dimension. And then I'm layering all of our elements with a little bit of extra cardstock behind those right over the top of our medallion. Now there are a couple of spots that need a little extra reinforcing, so I take some more coaster blank scraps and stick those underneath. If you're new to my channel, maybe you don't know what coaster blanks are. They're simply pulpboard coaster blanks. Seriously, it's just not printed with an advertisement. They're just like the coasters you get at the restaurant or the bar, and I order them off of Amazon, and I've been using them for a long time for extra dimension. I like that they are recyclable, and most of the time they are recycled. There we have all of our ephemera added, and we're going to add some of these pink opalescent color essential sequins. I have them in my little triangle tray, and I am going to adhere them to the card just scattered around, again from top to bottom, right corner to left corner or left corner to right corner, whichever direction I decide it needs to go for that particular card. Using my Barely Art glue and this pickup stick, the Spellbinders store now carries a crystal katana, which I don't have, but is very similar to this pickup stick. There are different color wax tips you can get for the different pickup stick varieties. And sometimes you want to have a clear one, a white one, or a black one. Just depends on what you're working with. Here we have our finished card number 3. Time to move on to card number 4. This one is all about sweater weather, baby. I am ink blending a piece of white cardstock here with some scattered straw Distress Oxide. Just adding a nice background. Doesn't have to be any particular shape. I just want it to cover the center of this panel. I'm also going to take some clean water and spatter that on the front of our card. And then I'm taking some, this happens to be liquid pixie dust. You could take some of the sparkle, the stuff that comes in the nail bottle stuff that Spellbinders carries. Whatever you have that's a shimmery, spatterable thing. This happens to be like a watercolor. And I'm also giving you a sneak peek of an embossing folder that's coming out next month. This is called the Ski Lodge embossing folder. It is one of the large 8.5 by 5.5 inch embossing folders. I love this size because I really love to make 5 by 7 cards. This also works great for slimline, mini slimline, A2 size cards, or just because you want to make multiples and you can emboss enough cardstock for more than one card at a time if you're doing an A2 card. I happen to be making just one card, so I did take just the size I needed and put that in our embossing folder and embossed it with that beautiful sweater pattern, that Nordic sweater pattern. I also took a piece of white cardstock and ink blended the edges with the scattered straw Distress Oxide to make it match perfectly with the ink blending. So we have a little bit of colored matting to go behind our embossed panel. Next, I'm going to take these 3 sweaters from the ephemera from this kit, and there are 3 different sizes. I like that we can have a variety in sizes here. I think they're adorable. We're also going to pull in the Stitched Fall Leaves, which is the I think I can talk. The Die of the Month kit from this month. And it has these two beautiful cursive style words. We've got hello and we've got fall. And they also have shadow dies. I love that. I do want to warn you that each of these words is in 2 or 3 pieces. So when they fall out of your die, don't worry, it's not broken. It just is the way they die cut, which gives you a little flexibility in your placement. And some people may find it easier to apply these to the shadow this way. I'm just taking each of these pieces, adding a little bit of the precision glue behind it, and I did use the gold mirror cardstock. We got silver in this kit, but I thought gold matched this particular card better, so we're using the gold. Here is the hello. I won't make you watch me do the fall at the same time. I'm just going to do each one of these words. And then I also have 2 more layers of heavyweight white cardstock scraps that I have die cut with the same shadow die to add a little extra height. So we have some thicker embellishments to add on our card. Now we're going to find our placement. We're going to decide where we want our sweaters on the card base. And then we're going to adhere our letters. We'll adhere the ephemera on last. We'll start with the hello, and I like to use my precision tweezers or my reverse tweezers to help with placement, especially since I tend to get a lot of glue on my fingers. I am just a messy crafter. I've learned to accept it and be careful with my fingers. We're adding the largest sweater in the center, and I've added a little bit of extra height behind that one with 2 layers of cardstock and just 1 layer of cardstock behind each of the smaller sweaters. Add our cute little sweater in last. And now it's time to decide if we need more. On the inside of the card, I decide to use one of the stickers that's a sweater, and I adhere that directly to the inside of the card. I look for a few more elements to see if there's anything else I want to add. There are 4 large sheets of stickers to choose from. And I'm going to add the Sending Handcrafted Hugs and Hellos to the inside of our card with the VersaFine Nocturne ink again. I do stamp that a couple times to get a nice crisp image. Next, I'm going to take that stitched heart stamp from the stamp set, and we'll stamp that in, I think that's evergreen bough and scattered straw. I end up stamping 2 of the scattered straw hearts, and each time I stamp the heart that I want, and since it's Distress Oxides, they really stamp very well and I don't have to repeat it. And then I clean the stamp and move it to wherever it is that I plan to stamp it next. I suppose if you used a transparency or something over the top, you wouldn't have to clean it between if you're not changing colors. Next, we're going to add a little bit of detail with these Aura Opalescent sequins. I just can't stop myself from adding more sequins to the front of these cards lately. It has been ages since I've not added sequins to a card. Sequins or gems or half pearls. Of course, if you're like me at all, you probably have quite the stash of these embellishments built up, and time to use them, I say. There's just a nice little grouping of 3 on the lower corner, and a nice grouping right above the shoulder of the purple sweater. And I like how it just creates flow through the card front. Just tucking one of those sequins underneath the purple sweater a titch. That's another trick I like to use to add the sequins partially underneath an element also. And that's card number, is that number 4? Yep. We're starting card number 5. This one's going to be really bold. We're using the Essential Circles and we're using the Hemstitch circles. We're going to layer those up and create a focal point for our images. I have another piece of white cardstock that will mat our pattern paper which is this really bold yellow background with florals all over it. I actually really love this bold pattern. It's very bright and cheery and very fallish. So we're going to take this navy blue cardstock frame and the white cardstock middle, and we're going to add these to the card front with a layer of cardstock behind the blue and behind the white. We're going to center that in the top portion of the card, and then we're going to add our ephemera bits, which I have again put cardstock behind the back of, because that's how we do things. And I'm going to add those to that circle, leaving space for a sentiment that is from that sticker sheet there. We're going to choose the Made to be Friends banner from the chipboard stickers. I am going to add a little extra height behind one end of that banner so that it'll fit nicely over our cute little bunny and kitten stuffed animals and be nice and even. And then we're going to take some of these chipboard sticker buttons and add those in that space, white space, next to the embroidery hoops and the bunny and above the banner. I do add a little bit of glue behind our stickers because, let's face it, I don't trust most stickers. Again, that heart button peeled off without the sticker portion, but liquid glue fixes that. Next, we're going to find a sentiment from these cardstock stickers. Oh, sorry, not cardstock. These are the matte paper ones. Oh, I also found this gold foil button sticker. We'll add that next to the other two. And look at all of those sentiments in those sticker sheets. So many. And I did mention before, I love these paper stickers. I think they blend much more seamlessly into your design since they're not shiny and they don't have that edge, the white space that's a glossy color instead of the matte white like the rest of our cardstocks. Inside, we're going to stamp that stitched heart again in the middle of the card front, card inside. And then we're going to stamp the sentiment in the Quilt of Life, friends are the stitches that hold it together. On the front, oh, nope, we've moved on to the next card. This must be card number 6. We start out by stamping our sentiment on some white cardstock with VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink, die cutting that with a circle after we've heat embossed it with some clear embossing powder, and matte that with some white cardstock again. So we'll lay down our larger white cardstock mat, and then we will adhere the pattern paper. This is a pattern with a bunch of wheels of pins, sewing pins. They're so pretty. They're kind of rainbowy, and I love that circular pattern. We add our die cut Fluted Classics oval in the center of our card. And now we have all of these flowers and this sewing machine with a pretty leaf pattern being sewn onto it. And we're adding a little bit of coaster blank behind this. I had changed my plan of how I was doing this, so I added a little more coaster blank behind the sewing machine to make it really much more raised over the flowers, and so that it's even with our sentiment that I've already adhered, well, no, not adhered, but I've already added some extra dimension behind. So we'll start sticking everything down, trying to make sure that I keep our flowers in the same pattern relatively. I love that there were so many florals in this kit. I didn't think I was a flower kind of gal, but it really does help with these pattern papers and these kits to have florals, because florals tend to just tie everything together. They're like the neutral image to dress things up with when it comes to these ephemera packs. Next, we're going to take these jewels from Trinity Stamps. I think this was the Androdite something or other. They're really pretty. They're a light green, almost jadey green, and they go perfectly with the colors in this card. It's a nice fresh color. and it has an iridescent quality to it. I did not have anything in my stash that was Spellbinders that had that color quality. Just scattering those across, just like always. I had asked in a previous video if you all wanted me to keep my sequin placement and adhering in the videos, and I had several people that said yes, you did want to see it, so we'll keep that in. FYI, if you had been hearing a lot of extra noise in the background, I apologize. That was my dryer being loud. Turns out life has to continue, even if I need to do a voiceover. Just about done adhering these gems. And like I said, I've been going crazy with all of the gems lately, partially because I have a ton of sequins and gems to use. We're going to take another of the stickers from the sticker sheets, and it is a sewing machine circle. It's gorgeous. I love these. They're just so perfect with this kit. I added that to the inside of the card, and they make decorating the inside of the card very easy. I just find something that matches the motif of the front and the color scheme and pop that in, and it's instantly decorated. We have the "May your day be filled with all the good things" on the inside. On to card number 7. Now we're going to use the Fluted Classics squares. And you know what? I don't think I've ever used the squares. I'm glad I had them. And we're going to not use a layer of white cardstock to frame this one. We're just going to adhere that directly to our card base. And we have our die cut square here. And I'm going to keep that a little to the left and trim off the excess again. I had underestimated the amount of the square that was going to fit on the front of the card, so I had to add a little extra cardstock behind it for height to keep it even. Going to use my grid mat here to help me keep that square straight on our card, and in retrospect, I think I should have turned it so that it was a diamond orientation. That's okay. We'll go with this square. Then I have this grouping of flowers, a girl knitting, a basket of yarn, and the sentiment that says "lovely." I think that looks like such a peaceful, fun vignette. I've adhered those to the square. We'll trim off the extra off the end with my long bladed scissors. And then we're going to take another sentiment. This says "Knitting Queen," and we're going to stick this sticker onto a piece of, I think this is shimmery white cardstock, and I'm going to use my trimmer to trim this off with a small border all the way around. I just wanted to frame that sentiment up a little bit, see if I liked it that way. And I like it. It helps separate it from that busy pattern paper on the background. We'll just adhere that directly to the pattern paper right under the word "lovely." Then we're going to add some pink opalescent sequins. I used those earlier in this video also. Just a quick scattering across the card. And then we're going to add some details to the inside. I found this fun ephemera piece that is a ball of yarn with 2 knitting needles sticking out of it. And it matches the colors of the rest of our card. And we're going to stamp another sentiment from the coordinating stamp set on the inside using the VersaFine Claire Nocturne ink again. This says "Sending handcrafted hugs and hellos." That's a really versatile sentiment, and I use it on several of our cards today. For card number 8, we're going to do some ink blending. I've got, what do I have? Kitsch Flamingo, saltwater taffy, and scattered straw, and we're going to ink blend these. The saltwater taffy has a corally colored tone to it. It is a pink, but it's more towards the coral side, which will act as our orange in this blend. I laid that down first. I tend to like to put my middle color down first and then blend from the sides. There's that Kitsch Flamingo. These are 2 of the newer Distress Oxide inks. And I really am so happy I have all of them. I'm working on my collection of full-size distress ink pads. I have all of the oxides and I have minis in all of the distress inks, but I'm finding that I like a bigger ink pad. I spattered that with some clean water, and we'll spatter that again with some of this liquid pixie dust. And again, you could use whatever liquid shimmery product you have to add some sparkliness. You can even use perfect pearls that you've added a little water to and just spatter with that. And you'll get a very similar effect. I die cut that with a precision layering die. And I have another piece of white cardstock that I've cut a little bigger than our main panel. I just like that this creates a subtle framing. Adding a little glue to this, and you can see that some of the ink has bled through. I did use only an 80-pound white cardstock. I think this is Hammermill. I actually found a really good deal for Hammermill 80-pound cardstock, and I bought an entire box of it. So I will have Hammermill paper for a long time, which is great because it works great for hot foiling, for ink blending, all kinds of things. Now I'm going to add the grouping of ephemera that I have, of course, already added my extra layers to. And my press and seal is holding it all together the way I wanted it to lay. And then I'm going to fuss a little bit with the exact placement. I want that basket full of balls of yarn to be level or straight because it shouldn't be crooked. The rest of the things can be crooked, at least in my brain. And now that I have that all adhered, we're going to pull out another chipboard sticker here. This one says, "Do what you love." And I'm figuring out my exact placement on this also. I don't want to cover up too much of any of the ephemera. And I do need to add a little bit of chipboard on the right side of this sentiment so that it's nice and flush with the rest of the elements. I might have to trim off some of that chipboard because it's overlapping on the balls of yarn a little too much. So I'll just peel that back and trim it off and add a little more glue and adhere that to the front of our card. I'm using the edge of my scissor to take off some of the fuzzies from our chipboard there. No, from the coaster blank that's underneath it. Next, I take a sentiment sticker from these sticker sheets. And this one says, "Make something pretty today," and we adhere that to the inside, and that's all of the inside of the card. We're going to take the pink opalescent sequins again and add a bunch of those to the front of the card. I have started adding some sequins into the middle of the ephemera also to help tie that in. Turns out I like to add more. And it does pull the design together a little more when you have some sequins or gems or half pearls, whatever embellishment you're using, that is actually in all of the ephemera. So you can tuck it under the edge of something, you can add it in the middle, all kinds of ways to incorporate your embellishments. On to card number 9. This one has a pretty calico pink pattern paper. And because I had such a thin border around this one, I assembled these two pieces first. Again, a piece of white cardstock. Both of these layers were cut with the precision layering dies. And now we'll adhere that directly to our A2 sized white card base. Again, a card base from the kit. And then we have the dies that we have gotten with the kit. It creates this embroidery hoop, and all of this embroidery and a needle with a piece of thread that you can thread right through the needle. I had assembled these for my unboxing video, which I still have to do the voiceover for. I promise it's coming. We'll stick all of these down to our card front, to our embroidery hoop, and you can assemble these flowers in a few different ways. And you can add however many you would like to this embroidery hoop. There's 2 different sizes of circles in this die set. So I did tape them together and create the brown circle on the outside because in my mind the embroidery hoop part is higher than the fabric. But in reality I think they're about even. Now that I've assembled all of these pieces, we're going to add a little extra cardstock behind it and adhere that to the left side of the card front, adding a little glue behind that thread so we can tack it down to our card base. And I'll put a heavyweight block on that foil piece because it does take a little longer for the mirror card to adhere to your card base. Next, we're going to do our sentiment, stamping that again with VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. And we're going to use my bucket of embossing powder, clear embossing powder here, to heat set this again. And I did stamp this 2 or 3 times to get the best coverage with the embossing powder because I want this to be nice and raised and shiny. Sometimes I don't care too much. This time I wanted it to be a nice bold embossing. Next, we're going to stamp the inside of the card. I have this in this Quilt of Life. Friends are the stitches that hold it together. I thought that was perfect with this embroidery. We'll stamp that a couple times also with VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. And my magnet was in the way a little bit on the left side, so I had to shift that and give a little extra pressure so that we had a complete in stamped. Then we're going to take the needle stamp. Bet you didn't notice there was a needle stamp in this set. And I'm using the the Delicata gold ink here to make it match with the rest of the card since we have a gold needle on the front. Well, it was a little blobby. That's supposed to be an outline stamp, but I was a little excessive with my stamping. I will fix that in a little bit. We're going to take that stitched heart stamp also, and we're going to stamp it with the pink, the Kitsch Flamingo, the Saltwater Taffy, and the Scattered Straw that we had used on the previous card. It still goes perfectly with all of the colors on this card also. So I've carefully placed each of those and stamped those. I really like how that came out. And then we're going to use the VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink and stamp lightly with that over the needle. I carefully placed that again, and it actually worked out perfectly. We're going to take one of the mini slimline precision layering dies again to cut out our sentiment to put on the front of the card. And I'm trying to figure out exactly where I want this placed. Moving it all around. I don't want to cover too much of the die cut embroidery. We'll add a little bit of coaster blank behind that so it has the same height and adhere that down to the front of the card, and it just feels too empty. So I go back to my chipboard stickers and I find some flower bunches and start adhering those to the front of the card. I'm not putting too much thought into it. I'm just taking these chipboard stickers and adhering them to the front of the card. I tuck the edge of one of these flowers under the upper portion of the sentiment. I had adhered the other bunch slightly overlapping it, and we have this last little flower that goes directly on top of one edge of the larger flower above it. Next, I'm pulling out some gold half pearls. Now, Spellbinders has gold half pearls that are self-adhesive. They are the fashion gold pearls, and I don't have them in my collection, but I think these are so similar that you could use them interchangeably. These I think are just the golden baubles from Trinity Stamps. And there are several sizes in both versions, so whichever you have, you go ahead and use. Just adding a few on the actual embroidery also. I really like these. I actually had to buy more because I had gone through so many of them. There's a lot of static in these. Not as much as Sequins though. So that was card number 9. We're on to card number 10. We're pulling out the Nestabilities circles, large and small. Whatever circles you have in your stash. These I've had for close to 20 years. We're taking more of the paper circles again, paper stickers, and I found 3 that I wanted to put on the front of this next card. This one's not a circle at all. It is this beautiful floral wreath, and I'm finding a circle that will fit perfectly. This was a 2.5-inch circle. It wasn't quite big enough, so I went to the next size up. I don't remember. That might be 2 5/8. And then I add each of these circles to the cardstock that I have stuck our paper stickers to, and we'll run that through the die cutting machine. And this is what we end up with. These are elements that we're going to put on the front of our card. Even though they're stickers, you can still layer them on cardstock and die cut them. We're also going to use one of the essential diamonds. I am using the heck out of this. I didn't realize how much I was going to use it. Also, we're using the embossing folder of the month, the Scattered Fall embossing folder. And I die cut the precision layering layer for the white, and then I ran it through the embossing folder. And now we'll adhere that directly to our card base. I love that luscious embossing on this panel. It will go fantastic with this pink gingham pattern paper that I die cut with the diamond. This is the largest of the diamonds, and you can see that it fits very nicely on an A2 size card base. It'll fit on all kinds of things. Each of the points is actually touching the edge of the card. So this is a 5.5 by 4.25 inch diamond. I'm going to take the largest of the circles and adhere that right in the center. And I have a couple layers of of scrap cardstock behind that. And that circle I did just a little off center, but to fit all of this on here, I would have had to overlap them anyway. So I tuck that underneath the edges I tuck both of those under the edges of the larger circle. And now we're going to add some more of these gold, like the fashion gold baubles here. Just going to get 2 groupings of 3 on here. This is a fairly simple, this is my version of clean and simple. We've got some texture. There's no inking. It's just a few elements and just some embellishments. Very easy. And it actually came together very quickly. I saw that heart, that floral heart element, and I knew that I wanted to do this geometric pattern with circles and a little pop of triangle. There is another floral heart sticker, smaller one, in that sticker sheet set, and we're going to add one of those to the inside for perfect coordination with the rest of the card. And we're going to add this sticker, this sentiment sticker that says, "Make the most of every day." So the front says, "Let's celebrate today," and inside it says, "Make the most of every day." And here are all 10 of the cards, a quick recap. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give me a thumbs up and a comment. That really helps boost my channel and make sure YouTube knows you want to keep seeing what I make. If you haven't subscribed, please take a moment to do that now. And if you're interested in any of the products I used today, check that description box below. Until next time, here's a couple more videos I thought you might enjoy. Bye-bye.